I'm Gina and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm an artist and a creator of miniatures and doll houses. In today's video we're going to do something a little bit different. I had purchased a kit, one of these kits that comes with everything. It's about 1/24 scale, probably a little bit smaller. I decided that I wanted to do something different than what it said on the front of the box. So while I've followed most of the instructions of how to put the pieces together, I've definitely put my own spin on it and created more of an abandoned scene, and really wanting to try out some techniques on how to age things, what it would look like with different placement of furniture, how I could actually change what the original concept of the project was into something that was not totally different, but definitely you can tell that it's got a different feel to it. So let's get started. Inside the box, it comes with everything. So as you can see, there's lots of bags of bits and pieces that are all ready to be made up, right from different pieces of furniture that have just been pressed out, some wood, and then painted. And as you can see, you've got the walls, and they're made up of roughly about 6mm MDF. I've got the base here as well. So we're going to start with the base and work our way up from there. It also comes with a set of instructions as well as all the printables. So you just need to cut these out and stick them into the project to give the illusion of wooden flooring, anything like that. So to begin with, we're going to start with the base. We're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. In the project, it has the cutout of the floor and the floor tiles, but I'm going to not actually use the wooden floor cutout. I'm actually going to create my own. I'm measuring the floorboards from the printable. I'm going to cut the floorboards to the same width, just so that I get the scale right within the project, but ultimately the actual look of it is going to be completely different. So I'm just going to cut a lot of those, and I'm just using my straight cutter here. It's a lot easier and quicker to do multiple cuts of the same width. And then what we're going to do is when we go to glue it in place, we're just going to stagger the floorboards across the project, just so that we get a little bit more realism involved. So it's got this piece here, and I'm going to leave the section where the tiles are because I'm going to do something a little bit different there. So I'm going to continue on with that, plus there's another 2 separate floors that have the floorboards on them as well within the project. So I'm just going to do that exactly the same thing with those. So once I've glued all the flooring in place, then it's just a simple paint, and I'm just going to use the same brown paint that I use in most of my other projects. It's quite a warm base to it. So I'm just going to paint all of the floors with this brown colour. Then I'm going to come back and just do a slightly darker wash to try and pick up the definition in the floorboards as well. I've cut out the printable and pasted that onto cardboard, which is exactly the same as the cardboard that I've used for the floorboard, so I know that it's going to be the same thickness. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to cut each individual tile out. In the printable, it has got some grout, so I'm just actually going to cut the grout lines away as well, because I'm going to use the black that I've painted out as a definition of the tiles. So for the tile part, I've already painted it in black. So now I'm going to take each individual tile and glue them into the project. I'm going to take a couple of them and I'm going to cut them up and as if they were broken tiles. So as you can see, I'm kind of doing the first line, trying to space them out as evenly as possible, trying to match up the original grout lines that were there, or the distance of the grout lines, just to kind of make sure that they all fit in as evenly as possible. And then I'm going to cut up a couple of them and then place them in as if they had been broken. So we're starting to see that we've kind of adding some little key features here and there that'll actually help identify that it is actually an abandoned home. So once that's all glued in, I'm going to go back over with a wash. This is basically watered down brown paint, and I'm just going to go over that just to age it up a little bit more. Moving on to the windows. Now this is the same treatment that I use for all of the windows in the house. So I'm just going to go through and break away some of the wooden frame. And then I'm going to, once I've done that, I'm going to overlay it with the plastic that comes with the kit and sort of mark out where the window potentially could have been broken relative to where they've cut out the frame. And then I'm just going to glue all of that together, put a little bit of a wash over it. So I'm going to fit the broken glass into the window, and then I'm going to fit it into the wall. I've cut out the printable for the wall. What I've done is actually in the bedroom part of it, I've actually cut those pieces into individual strips. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create ripped and torn and peeled wallpaper. So to do that, I'm going to mix up a bit of water and a bit of glue, just to kind of dampen down the paper so that it can be torn easily. So as I kind of go through, I'm kind of dampening down the paper, sticking it into place, and then trying to peel back where the paper joins. So often if you see peeling wallpaper in a home, it's often where the join of the wallpaper comes together, and often is peeling down from the top. And then the paint will actually help age the look of the room as well. So just to kind of, again, give some additional features into it to kind of bring the illusion that it's an abandoned house. So I'm just going to put the project aside and let everything dry overnight. So then I'm going to come back in the morning and continue on with the project. Okay, so into day two. First off, I am just got this little light here. So I fitted some of the wires and the lights through last night. And this one here, it just has a paper shade that goes around it. So I'm actually going to cut out the printable that comes with it, but I'm actually going to turn it inside out. And I'm just going to fit it as per the instructions in the kit, and then just age it up a little bit as I kind of fit it into the wall. So now we're going to move on to fitting the kitchen wall divider as well as the first balustrade in the project. There's quite a few balustrades, but this is the first one that is in the dining room. Sand down the woodwork just to kind of scuff it up a bit and make it look like it's actually worn. But by doing that, the wood underneath is actually quite light. So to age that up a little bit, I'm just going to go back over it and put a brown wash over it to try and get the paint to pick up on that bits of wood. And then I'm also going to age it up with another layer with a darker blackened brown as well, just to kind of pick up some more age to it. So now we're just going to fit it into place. So just a little bit of glue to fit this wall divider into the kitchen. Moving on, we're going to start creating the kitchen. In the kitchen, it is basically blue and white. And so some parts of it I'm going to paint out black. So exactly the same concept as what I did for the tiled floor. Just want that depth that the black brings in behind some of the cupboard doors rather than white. Aged, or even if I sanded it down and painted it with a bit of brown, it's still not going to give the same depth within the project. And with this, I am actually going to make the drawers look like they've been broken and the front's half hanging off. Same with some of the doors, not all of the doors, but some of the doors. And so by having that black in behind, it actually helps give the illusion that it's actually broken away without some white or light colours coming in behind it. That'll actually distract from what it is that we're trying to do. Let's get on and build out the fridge. So I'm just actually building this absolutely to instruction. I haven't sanded this one down. What I wanted to do was to keep the whiteness of the fridge and then using paint to actually grime it up. With a normal fridge, you wouldn't actually have the scuffs and worn marks as much as what you would on a wooden product. So I have just kept it basic. I've just kept it white and just aged it up with some paint, some black paint, and then I go back and put some greenery on it as well. Once the fridge is all done, then we can go ahead and age up the bench top. Exactly the same as what we've done with the fridge. This is a light coloured bench top. We're just going to add the brown wash over the top and then just add some darker details with a little bit more black in where the walls. So once that's done, we can actually start fitting this into place. So moving on to the dining room set. Once it's all sanded down and painted, then we're just going to start gluing it together. It's a little bit of a long process because there's a bit of dry time with it. So I'm just going to sort of skip through some of this, but ultimately it's piecing it together and gluing it all together. Also with the dining room set, it does have some little cushions, and I have just aged those up as well with just some watered down brown paint. So that's all done, and once it's all dried, we're just going to glue it into place. So I've kind of had an idea. I've got the table sort of pushed back towards the kitchen. with a one chair that's fallen over and broken. So moving on to the lounge area, we're just going to age the rug. This isn't the rug that comes with the project. This is a rug that I had myself, and I had thought that it would actually fit the project a little bit better. So I've just roughly, very lightly sanded the top image so it's not so bright, and then also we're just going to age it up a little bit with some watered down paint. For the sofa, there are some cushions, and in the plan it does have really light coloured fabric. I'm going to change it up a little bit. This particular dark fabric is actually in the kit for some other pieces of furniture that I'm actually just not going to make. I thought that this would be a great opportunity to use instead of the lighter colour. So once the cushions are done, I'm just going to follow the same process with all the other furniture. Sand down the woodwork slightly, put a wash over it with some watered down brown paint, glue it all together. I'm going to cut away some pieces as if they've been broken. Then once all of that's done, the only thing left to do is actually to glue it into place. I have completed the sofa and done that off camera. So I'm just going to put that aside now and let that all dry up overnight, and then we'll come back tomorrow. Welcome back. This is day 3. It's actually a couple of days later, so it's well and truly dry. So first off, we're going to create this mezzanine floor, which is just above the lounge or the living area. So I'm just going to glue that into place, and I'm just going to put a weight on it because it's tending to want to tip outside, and I want to make sure that I pull it on the inside just to keep everything nice and square. This part of the roof, it's actually kind of got this little trellis effect roof, which has actually got glass in it as well, which is kind of cool. So again, just like the other windows that I've created, I'm just going to cut out some pieces. Now for this particular one, I'm just going to cut out a section in the middle and then cut the plastic, which is the glass, as if something has fallen through it and smashed the trellis and smashed the glass. Before we can actually fit this roof trellis into place, we just need to fit the walls. Now I've glued these together off camera. I've just aged them up just like I've done with all the other walls, and actually fitted the windows in place as well. So now we can build the furniture for the space, and there's 2 separate pieces of furniture that go in here, as well as some table and chairs. So we're just going to start off with, to create the furniture, we're just going to sand down some of the pieces. I have thought about how do we make it look like some of the doors have fallen off. So I'm actually cutting, these come in one piece, so I'm actually going to cut them in half and create one door lying on the floor, one door kind of coming off its hinges, just to kind of give it a little bit more character. So I'm going to sand it down, glue it all up, just add a little bit more aging with some of the paint effects as well. So not only the watered down brown, but I also add a little bit of black to it as well, just to kind of age it up again. Part of the printables was a whole lot of books, and I've actually cut them all out, folded them all up and glued them all together. We're going to add some books into the shelving. So we're actually going to use a lot of those books within this particular scene, and then we're going to glue the shelving into the project. Once those are glued into place, we will add in some more books that have fallen off the shelf. Then once that's done, then we can add the roof trellis, and that's basically all of that particular room now done. What I'm also going to do is add a little bit more greenery. I've also done this through the kitchen, dining room, part of the lounge, and then also into here. So this greenery does come with the kit, what I've used it for, and nature has started to take over. Now we're going to get on to building out the table and chairs, because that's the other part for this particular project. And so just following the same process as what I did with the dining room chairs, we create the little cushions, age those up as well, glue the whole thing together, and then glue it into the project. Okay, welcome back to day 4. Today we're just going to finish off the rest of the project. First of all, we're going to sand down the bed. Now I glued the bed together last night, so it had 24 hours to dry and just to set. For the mattress, I'm just going to cut out some fabric, a little bit bigger than what I need, and just pop that aside. We're just going to sand down the furniture also for the bedroom, because we'll start gluing that together as well. Same process, sanding it down, concentrating on those areas where there's been more wear and tear, and then a bit of a brown wash over it, and then gluing it together. I either do it sanding them down and then putting the brown wash over it, or sanding them down, gluing them together, and then putting the wash on afterwards. It doesn't actually matter. Either way is fine because it has the same outcome. And we'll move on to gluing the fabric to the mattress. It is a simple process. I'm just going to cut off the corners because that will be really bulky. Because it's so small, we want to try and keep the bulk down as much as possible. So I'm just going to use the fabric that came with the kit for the bed cover. It's kind of this really light blue color, which is not going to work. So what I'm going to do is create a mixture of water, glue, and brown paint. I'm going to use this process which I've used before, and I use this for any fabric within a dollhouse. Mixing up the solution and then submerging the fabric into the solution, and then what that does is wets it all down. The glue, when it dries, will hold everything in place. So once we've got all that, we can start laying it on top of the bed frame and the mattress with the smaller piece of fabric. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to pin it into place where I want some folds to be created for this piece of fabric. So moving on to the balustrade. So this is one of the last pieces that will actually bring the whole project together. So just like what we did with the kitchen dining room balustrade, it's exactly the same process. So I'm just going to sand them down, cut out some of the pieces as if they've been broken, do a wash over them with some watered down brown paint, and then we'll start gluing them into the project. So the last thing to do is the wardrobe. What I've done with this particular one is created the doors as if they've opened. So I finished most of this off camera because it is literally the same process as I've followed all the way through. And here is the finished product. So I really hope that you liked this project and coming on the journey with me. It was a little bit of a long project. It's something a bit longer than what I would normally do, but it was a lot of detail in behind it, and I'm really stoked with how it's turned out. Going from what it basically says on the box into this abandoned scene with a lot more dark and a lot more moody kind of look around it. So that's it for this video, and we'll catch you on the next one.